For about 10 years, we've been managing actually autism, even the cards that I have and the registration that is done in the government bodies, the cards bears the words autism and physical disabilities. And that's what we've been managing. But after some time, we did different diagnosis, and we did a different test in India. And now this is the time this new diagnosis was given, the one of phenylketonuria. These children, the first one is a boy. At the moment, he's 18 years, and the girl is turning 14 now. They were born quite okay, and one was born in a normal way. The other one was born through elective CS, and both of them, were quite okay, as I've said, until the time they were approaching year 1. That is when now we started noticing these common ailments like fever, some respiratory distress, where we could be told this is pneumonia and all that. Then along the way, the kids started, both of them started regressing in their developmental milestones. A kid that was sitting down stopped sitting and or standing, or maybe walking, holding onto things. We noticed that they started becoming withdrawn and all that. Then their skin pigmentation and all that, and at some point we thought it's jaundice and all that. We've been in and out of hospitals until a time when now you are told we need to go and check advice from these disability bodies. And that's what we have done. We have managed this condition for George from the time he was year 1. The girl, Angel, as well, from the time she was year 1. They got assessed, and we were told they have autism. But we have managed it and found for about 10 years, that is for the boy, nothing was changing much. We've taken him even to special schools, which were very costly. Still nothing was changing. There is one thing that was standing out, this issue of convulsions, the issue of skin pigmentation, the issue of irritation, crying all the time. We decided to get a second opinion. We tried to pull resources. We took them to India. And when we took them to India, thorough diagnosis was done, and a verdict was reached that they have a condition called PKU. Now, this is one condition that comes about as a result of body's inability to metabolize or to properly utilize amino acids or some parts of proteins. And we were told this is something that could be managed right from the child is born, and the child necessarily does not need to get disabilities. It is something that's just like someone who has diabetes. You are told right from the beginning, this is what you need to avoid. And once you do this, you lead your normal life. As long as, like in our case, in our particular case, we would have been told to avoid proteins. And once we were told to avoid proteins, we would have been told to take supplements in their place. Even breastfeeding, they would not have breastfed. But because we did not have this information, we continued doing this. And just like in autism management, we continued with, we only removed the gluten and some things that we are told in autism we remove, but we are still retaining the entire, all the proteins. And I have told you the only offensive element in this protein in their body is this thing we are calling phenylalanine. Because this condition, as I've told you, if you consume proteins, your body, you consume the protein, now the body releases a chemical called phenylalanine hydroxylase. Now the metabolism gets complete. But in their case, due to one reason or the other, and actually in their particular case, it's a genetic issue. Their body does not release now this chemical. So what happens is that once they have consumed this chemical and the body removes it from the food, it is left floating in the blood. And when it is left floating in the blood and the blood continues pumping it, at some point when it gets into the brain or some nerves, and it's not eliminated from the body, it becomes toxic. Once it becomes toxic, that is the time now you'll see the child will start having fevers, because there's something foreign now in the body, something toxic. you start having fevers. If it's still not controlled, you start having convulsions. And if it's still not controlled, that's now the point now we have now intellectual impairment, because the brain is being damaged over time. Now, it has been a journey. And one thing that I always like capturing is that I've told you there's a way we were told that this could be avoided. I can show you documentaries of children who have PKU. And when I'm talking about PKU, I'm talking about just one of many other disorders that come about as a result of maybe body's inability to metabolize some foods. So in this particular case of PKU, I like talking about it because it's something that could be avoided. In developed countries, what happens is that there's something called newborn screening. Now, with the newborn screening, and this is what could have happened with our children, unfortunately it's not here in our country. We would have, a blood would have been taken from their body. In most cases, it's taken from the heel. A sample is taken to the lab, and within 72 hours or a day or two, you are told that your child is quite okay. He could be okay for 1 month, 2 months, or even a year. But along the way, he will develop a certain problem. In our case, we would have been told your child is likely to have disability as a result of PKU.